It usually isn't obvious at first. There's no single moment you can point to and say, this is when it happened. It accumulates slowly, quietly, over time. One experience piles onto another. A loss here, a disappointment there, responsibilities that arrived too early, situations you had to survive before you were ready to understand them. You adapt, you keep going. From the outside, it looks like resilience. From the inside, it feels like carrying weight that never fully comes off. This is what it's like for people who have gone through too much. Not traumatic, not broken in a visible way, just worn in places no one thinks to look. And the most confusing part is that life doesn't stop afterward. You're still expected to function, to respond normally, to laugh at the right moments, to move on as if accumulation doesn't change a person. But psychologically, it does. People who have been through too much often don't feel traumatized in the way the word is usually portrayed. There's no constant panic, no obvious flashbacks. Instead, there's a quiet shift in how they relate to the world, a subtle distancing, a sense that things hit differently now. They've learned, often unconsciously, that life can change suddenly, without warning and without fairness. And once the brain learns that lesson, it doesn't unlearn it easily. Psychology understands this as adaptive recalibration. When the mind experiences repeated stress or loss, it adjusts expectations to protect itself. Hope becomes cautious. Trust becomes selective. Joy becomes something to monitor rather than surrender to. Not because the person is pessimistic, but because they've learned that openness can come with a cost. People who have gone through too much often develop a heightened awareness of emotional risk. They read rooms quickly. They sense shifts in tone. They anticipate problems before they happen. From the outside, this can look like overthinking, but internally, it's preparedness. A nervous system trained by experience to stay one step ahead. This hyper-awareness didn't come from imagination. It came from repetition. When difficult things happen more than once, the brain stops treating them as exceptions and starts treating them as patterns. Over time, this changes how safety is defined. Safety is no longer the absence of danger. It's control, predictability, distance. This is why many people who have been through too much struggle with rest. Stillness gives the mind space to replay, to connect dots, to feel what was postponed in order to survive. So they stay busy, they stay productive, they stay mentally occupied, not because they're avoiding growth, but because slowing down feels unsafe. Their nervous system learned that movement meant survival. Another overlooked effect is emotional compression. When you endure multiple hardships, you don't always process them individually. You move on because you have to. There's no time to unpack each one, so emotions get stored instead of resolved. Over time, this creates a dullness. Not numbness exactly, but reduced reactivity. Big things don't always produce big reactions anymore. People might say you're calm under pressure, but what they don't see is how much you've learned to minimize internally. This can create distance in relationships. People who have gone through too much often struggle to explain themselves. Their experiences feel too layered, too heavy, too complex to summarize casually. When asked how they are, they default to fine, not because it's true, but because the truth doesn't fit into normal conversation. They've learned that sharing too much can make others uncomfortable, so they edit themselves. Over time, this editing becomes automatic. Another psychological pattern that emerges is self-reliance. After repeated disappointment or instability, depending on others can feel risky, so they learn to handle things alone. They don't ask for help easily, not out of pride, but out of conditioning. When you've learned that support is inconsistent or conditional, independence feels safer than hope. But this independence comes with a cost. It can harden into isolation. People may assume you're strong, capable, unbothered. They may stop checking in. And silence, over time, reinforces the belief that you're on your own. There's also a shift in how time is experienced. For people who have been through too much, the future doesn't feel expansive. It feels uncertain. They may struggle to imagine long-term plans, not because they lack ambition, but because imagining the future requires trust. Trust that things will remain stable. And stability hasn't been a reliable pattern for them. Psychologically, this is not pessimism. It's memory. The brain uses past data to predict future outcomes. When the past contains repeated disruption, the future feels fragile. This can affect motivation in subtle ways. People may appear unmotivated or indecisive, but internally, every decision feels weighted. Choosing a path means risking loss again. Commitment feels dangerous because it creates something to lose, so they hesitate, they delay. They keep options open, not because they don't want more from life, but because they've learned how quickly more can turn into less. Another quiet consequence is emotional maturity that arrives early. People who have gone through too much often understand things others haven't had to face yet. They see complexity where others see simplicity. They recognize emotional patterns. They notice power dynamics. They're often empathetic, not because they're naturally gentle, but because pain trained them to notice pain. This can make them feel out of place. Conversations feel shallow. Problems feel disproportionate. They may struggle to relate to everyday complaints because their baseline for difficulty is different. This doesn't mean they lack compassion. It means their internal scale has been recalibrated. But this early maturity can also come with grief. Grief for the version of themselves that didn't get to be careless, didn't get to feel safe early on, didn't get to experience life without constant adaptation. That grief is rarely acknowledged because it doesn't fit a clear category. It's not grief for a person or a moment. It's grief for an alternate self, someone who didn't have to grow up so fast. Another layer is how people who have been through too much relate to happiness. Joy can feel suspicious, not because they don't want it, but because they've learned it can be temporary. When happiness arrives, they may brace for its departure. They may downplay it, delay celebrating it, or feel uneasy when things are going well. This is not self-sabotage, it's protective anticipation. The nervous system preparing for impact that may never come. Over time, this can dull pleasure, not eliminate it, but soften it. Moments feel less vivid because part of the mind is already preparing for the next shift. People who have gone through too much often hear phrases like, "You're so strong. You've handled so much." These comments are meant as praise, but they can feel isolating. Strength becomes an identity rather than a phase. People stop offering softness because they assume you don't need it. But strength is often misunderstood. It isn't the absence of vulnerability. It's the ability to function despite carrying unresolved weight. And that weight still exists, even if it's invisible. There is also a complicated relationship with healing. People who have been through too much don't always trust simple solutions. They've tried moving on. They've tried reframing. They've tried being positive. So when healing is presented as something quick or linear, it feels unrealistic. Healing for them isn't about fixing. It's about learning how to live with what can't be erased. This is why they may resist labels. Trauma, survivor, resilient. None of them fully capture the experience. Because the experience isn't a single event. It's accumulation. And accumulation doesn't resolve all at once. Another important aspect is identity diffusion. When much of your life has been shaped by reacting to circumstances, it can be hard to know who you are separate from survival. You know how to cope. You know how to endure. But desire, preference, ease, those can feel unfamiliar. People who have gone through too much sometimes struggle with the question, what do I actually want? Because wanting feels risky when you've learned not to expect fulfillment. Over time, this can lead to emotional flatness. Not depression exactly, more like guarded neutrality. A way of staying balanced by not leaning too far in any direction. From the outside, it can look like detachment. From the inside, it's regulation. One of the most misunderstood aspects is that people who have been through too much are often deeply capable of joy, connection, and meaning. But they approach these things carefully. They don't rush. They don't assume. They test safety slowly. And when they do attach, they attach sincerely, because they know the cost. This can make their relationships quieter but deeper, less dramatic but more intentional. Another shift happens around control. When life is felt uncontrollable, people seek control where they can, over routines, over environments, over expectations. This can show up as rigidity or perfectionism, but underneath it is a desire for predictability. Predictability equals safety, and safety is not something they take for granted. There is also fatigue, not physical exhaustion alone, but existential tiredness. The tiredness of having adapted too many times, of having rebuilt too often, of having had to be okay when you weren't. This fatigue doesn't always respond to rest because it isn't just about energy. It's about accumulation, the mind and body holding memories that were never fully released. People who have gone through too much often minimize their experience. They say others had it worse. They downplay their own pain. This isn't humility. It's normalization. When hardship is familiar, it stops feeling exceptional. But minimizing doesn't erase impact. It only delays acknowledgement. And acknowledgement is often what's missing. Not sympathy, not advice, just recognition. Recognition that going through too much changes you. Not in one clear way, but in many small, lasting ones. Over time, many of these individuals develop a quiet wisdom. Not the kind that gives answers, but the kind that tolerates uncertainty. They know that life can be unfair and still meaningful. That pain can coexist with growth. That healing doesn't always look like happiness. Sometimes it looks like stability, or boundaries, or choosing peace over intensity. If you have gone through too much, it doesn't mean you are damaged. It means you adapted. It means your nervous system learned from experience. It means your depth was shaped by necessity, not choice. And while that comes with challenges, it also comes with insight. You see layers others may miss. You understand fragility. You value safety. You know the cost of things. That awareness can feel heavy, but it can also guide you toward a life built with intention rather than illusion. People who have gone through too much are not broken. They are calibrated differently. Their pace may be slower, their trust more selective, their joy more guarded. But their presence is often steady, grounded, real, and in a world that often moves too fast to notice depth, that quiet steadiness matters. What they carry isn't always visible, but it shapes how they move through everything. And sometimes, simply understanding that is the beginning of self-compassion. Not because it erases the past, but because it finally names what was endured. And naming is often the first step toward feeling less alone with it.